What if I told you that a group of men from different backgrounds could come together and form one of the strongest bonds? That a group of men could face adversity and hatred every day in their life, and that group of men could not only change a sport, but a country for a lifetime.
Before 1960s, it was not very common for African Americans to participate in NCAA athletics. This changed in 1966 with Texas Western's basketball team. The 5 starters for the championship game against Kentucky was all African Americans. Overall, they had 7 African Americans on the team. The man who was hired as coach was named Don Haskins, who was a former high school girls basketball coach. On the other team, there was no black players and were coached by Adolph Rupp. There has been numerous quotes saying that Rupp was ultimately racist. This famous championship game took place on March 19, 1966 at Maryland's Cold Fieldhouse. The Texas Western Miners defeated the Kentucky Wildcats 72-65. Both teams were not even considered throughout the regular season to be NCAA championship contenders. Texas Western was not known by many people across the country as it wasn't even televised half the time on national TV. The school as of today does not even go by the name Texas Western and now goes by the title of University of Texas at El Paso. At first, the impact of the win of Texas Western against Kentucky was not very big. People took it as another championship game won by a team that was mediocre. It wasn't until in later years that the people realized how monumental it was for an all-black lineup to defeat an all-white lineup, especially in the era when blacks were still trying to be appreciated by everyone. People later felt that maybe this game is symbolic of how African Americans are same and as capable as whites. It also stirred up mixed emotions because Rupp's apparent racism was being talked about and people didn't appreciate the way he handled situations when talking about playing or even interacting with African Americans. Overall, people then realized that this moment changed college sports forever.
Texas Western didn't start breaking down color barriers first with playing 5 African American players. They were one of the first teams to start recruiting African American players before Haskins even started coaching there. When he got there, though, he had nothing but encouragement for the movement they were building. Over the past 50 years, the culture of basketball has changed immensely. At the time, none of the players really knew what impact they would have on the sport itself. Each year, the impact has affected basketball even more. Before the 1966 win, other teams had won championships, but there was something different about Texas Western. The win was so symbolic and important for the nation at the time for the state it was in. The win was a giant step into the blending the sport itself and the country moving forward into the future. At the time, segregation was dying down, but doesn't mean tension between anyone was, especially with the Civil Rights Act being issued. Other barriers were being broken down in other sports like Jackie Robinson in baseball or Kenny Washington in football. Before Texas Western, Cincinnati was the only other team to have started 4 black players and had won the NCAA championship in 1962. During the year of the Texas Western won, multiple big-time conferences had no African American players. Haskins was a big part of this changing event in history. He cared for his players and didn't care what anyone had to say. After a semifinals game, a coach approached Haskins and asked, "Don, how do you talk to your black players that way?" Haskins replied saying, "The same way I talk to my white players." After the Miners had won the championships, Kentucky's coach Rupp, being in the salty mood he was, said some pretty racist comments about the Texas players. Regardless of the claims he made, the implication of the 1966 championship game changed college sports. Pat Riley, a successful NBA coach, acknowledged the game impact after seeing the 2006 movie Glory Road. He said, "It wasn't until history started to talk about this game in that context that we realized we were part of something bigger than just 5 blacks and 5 whites." Years later, it was learned that after the horrible comments Rupp said, 4 of his 5 stars didn't even earn degrees. Rupp had promised 5 African Americans would never beat his team. The satisfaction for Haskins was through the roof. For years, the president of Kentucky had pushed Rupp to recruit a black player, but he refused. African American players even refused to play with him. Obviously, Haskins got the upper hand in the end. Whether the Texas players actually deserved to win or not, they think about it every day and the amazing change they brought to the nation. Today, basketball has completely changed and loved by so many people. It wouldn't be the way it is today without the movement of the 1966 championships.
The 1966 Men's Basketball Championship brought two great coaches together, with Don Haskins with Texas Western and the great Adolph Rupp with Kentucky. Don Haskins turned to the chalkboard as he usually did before a game to put up the starting five for that game. When he started to diagram the key strengths of their opponent, the Kentucky Wildcats, he noticed that starting point guard Bobby Joe Hill had fallen asleep. Haskins said, "I grabbed an eraser and beamed him with it. I was so angry I couldn't think straight." It seemed that none of the players were ready to play in the biggest game of their careers against the number one team in the country. "I hope you get your ass kicked. I'm so damn sick and tired of this crap," Haskins yelled at all 12 on the team. In the team huddle before the game, Haskins told his starting center, David Lattin, "David, I want you to take it to the rim and dunk on someone. Just knock them over. I don't care if you get called for a charge, for traveling, rip off the backboard, anything." Texas Western was a very good team, but didn't get the attention they deserved. It seemed like Coach Haskins was the only one who thought they had a chance with competing with Kentucky. Adolph Rupp, who was the head coach at the University of Kentucky for 41 years and was known as the Baron of college basketball. Rupp was known to be wildly opposed to black players in college basketball. Before the championship game in 1966, Rupp said, "No team with black players should beat me." Rupp also joked by saying, "What does TWC stand for? Two white coaches." Rupp, the Kentucky players, and the whole country thought that they would walk right over Texas Western.
There has been a very famous movie based on the story of the Texas Western men's basketball team called Glory Road. Just like any movie based on a true story, there are a lot of the stories in the movie that are true. If you have not seen the movie Glory Road, some of the most important moments look at the ideas of adversity that the Texas Western men's basketball team had to face throughout their season. Unfortunately, there are a lot of instances in the movie Glory Road that actually did not happen in real life. Let's take a look at a couple of them.
Throwing blood in your walls. You don't have people shoving your head in toilets.
It's not us.
White is white, Green Acres, and that means you too.
Yeah, I'm white. And you've never been able to see past that. We're not like them.
Think we haven't had heat come down on us?
You guys, no one's out there getting spit
No
on?
one's out there skating by. Well, we're out there sweating blood.
You think it's easy being on this team? Taking a backseat to you every day? We came here to play basketball just like you guys. Now it's like we don't even count. We're the minority.
I don't want to hear that from you, Farmer. I have been the minority every day of my life. And you're crying because you spent the last few months of your life in our shadows?
Discipline, defense, and basketball.
Helga, hey, show Mr. Cajun how to make a shot.
Come on, man.
You want me to do that? Come on, Coach. What about my styling? I got way too much style to do that.
You leave the styling for the barbershop. Just show me you belong in the NCAA.
Okay, guys.
Both of these scenes are not true. The first scene was the Miners after their only loss at Seattle. It showed the team arguing, showed the white and the African American players not getting along and blaming the loss on each other. The team was actually the complete opposite. Sophomore David Pacelio said it was a friendship. It was a pure friendship. I don't remember a single instance of race ever being brought into the locker room and it being an issue or a problem among us. The second scene also is not true. During the movie, the team is seen as an underdeveloped team that is not very good. But actually, they had a successful season the year before and had also made the postseason 3 years before that as well. The Texas Western men's basketball team won a national championship. That is an incredible accomplishment, and most people will never be able to do that in sports. But that is not the most impressive thing they were able to do. Being the first NCAA men's basketball team to start 5 African Americans for their team, they fought for not only civil rights, but social justice, not just in sports, but also for everyone in America. They showed how a real team should act when they face adversity. They showed how a real team should act when people try to discriminate them. They showed true passion and heart for one another, and their story will live on forever.